Have you been doing some coding and you come across a question mark in the code and you're like, what is this? What does this mean? Usually it's followed by a colon, sometimes it's like a one-liner and I don't know. Sometimes it's just not exactly clear what's going on. Well, this expression with the question mark in the colon is a ternary operator or a conditional operator, same difference. In this lesson, we're going to talk about exactly what this is, what it looks like, what it does. Basically, it's like a condensed if-else statement. They can be really handy to use. It makes the code just concise and easy to read in the right situation. And in this lesson, you're going to learn exactly how to use them. Stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos like this. Before we start, just a big shout out to Altium for sponsoring this video. Huge thanks. You can check the description to get a free trial of the Altium software. So what is going on with these ternary conditional operators? What is this? Well, think of a traditional if statement, right? In a traditional if statement, and that is if-else statement, we have a condition, right? If this condition is true, hey, do one thing. If this condition is not true, do something else, right? That's our if-else statement. Well, the ternary operator, same deal. It's just formatted a little bit differently, and it's all on one line. It's more terse. So with the ternary, you say, hey, what's the condition, right? Like maybe is A greater than B, or is A like 5 times B, or whatever expression you want to have right here. And then you follow it with a question mark. And then you have two values separated by a colon. It's got to end with a semicolon too. If this expression is true, then what's going to happen is this A is going to be assigned, right? This A is going to be returned. If this expression is false, if A is not greater than B, then B is going to get returned. All right, so that's probably clear as mud. All right, so we're going to look at some concrete examples here, but let's look at line 10 here. I'm just going to change something here real quick because I don't like the wording exactly. All right, so let's take a look at line 10 here. This puts a little bit of meat on the bones here, but let's say we've got two inputs, right? Here's a previous input and here's a new input, right? So imagine that these are values, right? Like maybe this is the number 3 and this is the number 5. And we're just checking, hey, is the previous input greater than the new input? Oh, hey, is 3 greater than 5? Or let's say, hey, is 6 greater than 5? Yes, 6 is greater than 5. So what are we going to do? Hey, previous input is going to get returned. All right, so previous input is going to get returned from this ternary operator, conditional operator. Well, what if it's not? What if this is 3 and new input is like 12, right? Well, then the previous input is not greater than the new input. So what's going to get returned? Well, new input would get returned. So let me do just a little bit of coding here. We'll set up an example where this can make a little bit more sense in your code, and then we'll talk about it. Do you need a printed circuit board design software to move your prototype to the next level? Altium Designer is a great choice for designing PCBs, sharing your design with team members, and even getting your design manufactured. What really kind of blows me away about this software is that even though it's a super powerful tool, at the same time, it's really intuitive to use. They've got helpful video tutorials built right into the software, so you can kickstart your learning process and actually get something made. Right now, you can get a free trial to Altium Designer with our link in the description. That's right, you can test drive this super powerful software with a free trial. Just check out the link in the description. All right, so I've got some code here. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward. Let's just talk through it real quick. Basically, I've got a pin number that I've defined, pin number 6. I've got a long that I've defined called input, and then I've got a variable that is a Boolean, so that could be either true or false, or high or low. I've called it state, and I set it equal to low starting out. Then in the setup, I'm just initializing serial communication, and I'm setting the mode of that LED pin as an output. So that's the setup part, and then down in the loop, on line 21, we're checking to see if there's any input available in the serial buffer. So, we've got that thing, serial monitor right here. So if I put a value in here, like, 12, and I hit send, that value is going to the serial buffer, and serial available returns the number of bytes that are in the buffer. So if there's no bytes in the buffer, it returns a 0. So that would be false, right? And so if this was false, this if statement wouldn't run. But if it's true, if something is available, then this if statement runs. And if that happens, what we use is the Parseint function. So that's going to it's going to look in the serial buffer for the first integer, and then it's going to return that value as a long. And that's what we're saving to input here. And then we just print that out. So you'll notice I put in 12, it printed out 12. I could put in 1000, and it's going to print out 1000. So that's how we're getting this input value. So here we've got our standard run-of-the-mill if-else statement, right? And we've got a condition in this if statement, and all we're doing, we're saying, hey, is the input greater than 100? If it is, then we're going to set state equal to high. Otherwise, if it's not greater than 100, then we're going to set state equal to low. Then on this last line, we just write to digital write to that LED pin, right? And we're going to write the state value. So this can be either high or low, right? So if that input is greater than 100, it's going to be high. If it's less than 100, it's going to be low. So the LED is either going to be on or off based on what we put into the serial monitor up here. So I've got this circuit set up. I'm basically using just a kit on a shield. You just have an LED with a resistor attached to pin 6, whatever. And I'm just going to send the value 10 right to the serial monitor. I send that and nothing happens, right? Why does nothing happen? Because in this condition is not being met, and the else statement is that it's going to be low, right? So we expect digital write to write low voltage to that pin, right? So it's not going to be on. What if we change that to, let's say, 999, and we send that? Now it's 999, and you can see the LED at pin 6 comes on, right? So pretty straightforward, nothing crazy here. So let's go ahead and turn this into a ternary operator, because that's what we're trying to talk about, right? It's really pretty simple, and it kind of like tightens up the code. So let's do this. Okay. So now what I've done is I've written out our ternary operator, our conditional operator. So this code right here on line 27 is the exact same thing. It's going to have the exact same result as this right here. But instead of taking up 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 lines of code, it's just 1 line of code, which is pretty nice. So we've got our variable called state, and we're setting it equal to the output of this ternary operator, conditional operator, right? So first we have our condition. Hey, is the input greater than 100? This is our condition. So you don't have to have this in parentheses. It could be without the parentheses, but like this, but I generally like to have it in parentheses, the condition that is. All right, so if this condition is true, what do we do? Well, if it's true, you do this first thing, right? So what's going to happen? Well, this value high is going to be returned and saved into state, right? So this is like setting state equal to high. If this is not true, then low, this value low is going to be saved into state. Like these don't have to be high and low. This could be like, 6 and 67 if we felt like it. For our purposes, it makes sense for this to be high and low because we're turning on an LED, right? Or turning on and off an LED, that is. So this is like the basic form of it, okay? So I can get rid of this if statement now, and now right here, nice and concise, I've got this bit of code right here. And I can upload this, and then we can check, right? So I'm gonna open up the serial monitor, and I'm gonna input 899. I'll send it, and I should expect that LED to come on. And it does, right? Now if I input 9, send that, LED should go off, and it does. So that's doing the exact same thing. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing that might be fun is we could probably get this down to just one line of code if we really wanted. Let's try this. All right, well, now look at 929. We just have our condition, this question mark. What happens if this condition is true? Well, this first thing happens. What's this first thing? Well, we're using a function, digital write, and it's going to write LED pin high. That's pin 6, so it's going to turn the LED on. Well, what if input is not greater than 100? Well, if this isn't true, then it's the second case, that false case that's going to run. And so we just write digital write low, and that would turn the LED off. So we've gotten all that if statement down to just a single line of code. Now, personally, I think to me that's a bit much. I think I prefer the 2-line right here. That makes a little more sense to me. To me, this just seems a little bit easier to read than this. But hey, to each their own. All right, well, hey, that's the ternary operator, conditional operator. Hopefully that makes sense. Now when you see that question mark in code, you'd be like, oh, hey, that's a ternary operator. I know how to read that statement. Or maybe you're like, man, this if statement's taking up a lot of space. It's really pretty basic. Could I just turn this into a one-liner? It's kind of nice because, as you start writing more and more code, trying to mentally understand your code, if there's a lot of vertical space, it can get a little complicated. And sometimes just a nice one-line concise statement can be pretty darn helpful. It can be intuitive. It's kind of about code readability. Can I read it? Can I understand it? And, ternary operators are out there everywhere, so it's just a good thing to know. All right. Well, I hope you found that helpful. If you want to learn more about all this Arduino programming stuff, make sure to check out our training program at programmingelectronics.com. Also, thanks so much to Altium for sponsoring this video. If you want to get a free trial of an amazing PCB design software, check out the description. Use our link, you can get a free trial of Altium Designer. Also, before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to get more videos like this. Leave a comment if you have any questions or thoughts about this video. And as always, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.